Rory, I have to
Okay.
come in here. So may I
Yeah,
please say something?
Please,
absolutely.
please.
I saw that you were bursting to say something.
Yeah. So the one thing that I lost in my life, I lost to a certain extent the routine discipline. And that's a terrible thing to lose. So I want to tell you, when I saw Colin I saw him a few times. We both did karate, but he was on a whole different level. And I saw in Colin the times that he was in competition, tremendous accuracy, speed, focus, a well-toned body, a mind that's so sharp that can handle pressure. When you're in the ring and you get to the end of the ring and you don't want to step out, you can do two things. You can either attack to go forward, or you can block and you can counter. And Colin, all of that, the execution was amazing. I remember watching some of the videos over and over where he would catch people with roundhouse kicks. They don't know where it comes from. And that precision I saw in his writing. And that's what I needed, because I don't have it. I don't see detail. I walk into a place, I only see a big picture. So that
Yes.
detail I needed in the writing, that discipline. And I can tell you this, I would send that thing to him tonight at 2 o'clock, that voice recording. Tomorrow afternoon it will be finished. The chapter will be finished.
Wow.
And that's what I needed. It was because of Colin that we could finish it. So I think that combination of me thinking, um, being being on a high, sitting on my chair, and I mean literally and emotionally, uh, coming up with bright ideas, and then giving it to Colin, who's much more straightforward and much more to the point, writing it down. That for me worked tremendously well.
So my next follow-up question, if you don't mind, Kirsten, before I hand it to you, is I'm picking up from both of you that there's quite a lot of discipline. And even the image that Kirsten showed us just now is the little mouse, Master Aha with his stick, dressed in his karate outfit. I see a lot of discipline, but if I look at some of the kind of ideas that are coming through it, how do you tie the discipline to kind of the movement of change? How does it translate into the words of Master Aha in terms of some of the advice that he'll give us?
Tough question that I'm thinking. No, tough question. I think if you want anything in life, even if you want to go to the shop now, you need X amount of discipline. Otherwise, if you look at my body shape, you look at Colin's body shape, you'll see that Colin has got much more discipline than I've got. So in every sphere of life, whether you're healthy, whether you do what you do, you need that amount of discipline. And even the advice that Master Aha gave, it's one thing to absorb it intellectually. It's a different thing to get it into the heart and into the system, to live it.
Yeah.
And that's the part that needs this.
Okay.
I think so.
So,
What do you think?
Colin, yeah.
Well, if I take my own karate background, um, training in the dojo was always a very serious matter, always full of danger, um, physical exhaustion. And to reach certain levels, you had to be disciplined in your training. And the discipline in the training, combined with dealing with all this danger, when I say danger, I'm talking about real danger of injury. And the Japanese protocol that goes with karate as a do, that discipline, it forges in you this internal power to overcome all odds. That was my experience. And for me, the discipline of that karate I've been able to transpose it or transfer it into discipline in general life. So that, I've also had my fair share of tragedy. We all have. I've had mine. And I've had to deal with it, certainly for the last 15, 16 years. I've had to deal with it. But I didn't let it get on top of me, get the better of me. There were some years of torment, but then you come to terms with it and then you deal with it. And for me, you can only deal with odds if you have the discipline not to give in, but to persevere with an indomitable spirit. And that to me is what we need now as we deal with what's happening in the world now. Indomitable spirit. Just never give in.
It's absolutely wonderful word. I love it.
Wonderful.
Indomitable.
You
Kirsten,
see, Rory,
any other questions? Yes, Rinus, before I pass to Kirsten, yeah.
you see, now Colin uses a word in English that I've got no idea. I have to now kind of think, how do I fit it in? That's why I use him. So in the book, you'll find words like that. I've got no idea what it means, but it's in there and it's bloody beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's
Somehow I know that
brilliant.
you don't know what it means, but
Well,
anyway.
but it also, I just jump in there. It also, the book, it comes down to language moves people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Language moves people, whether negatively or positively. And our goal in this book was to use the language. Master Harvey, I try to use language as a means to move people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah.
Wonderful.
I was about to go to the cliche with the sword and the pen, but I think we all understand that. Kirsten,
Good one, man.
yeah, absolutely. Kirsten, any questions from yourself?
Yes. Yes, I just want to ask Colin, please. We talk about economies with hyperinflation these days, and we're all aware of how that kind of economics has run wild. If we think about that in relation to the individual, this hyper-individualism that we've all been subjected to, and is almost that a water that we swim in, where we have to have a personal brand, that brand's got to be differentiated. We under a lot of pressure to stand out from a crowd that already stands out, make a lot of noise, and get noticed. How does that kind of hyper-ego state relate to the kind of discipline that you're talking about? Because, you know, isn't one of the dangers that being so disciplined and being on that kind of path becomes in itself a way of being hyper-individualized?
I'm smiling because this is the kind of question that Rinus is much better equipped to answer.
But you're living it.
You know, we're living in the 21st century. We're all of the similar age, I think. We're the 20th century children. You know, our childhood was nothing like the childhood of the 21st century. I mean, we're not millennials, the generation X, Y, Z. I mean, what other alphabet can we use? Hyper ego, hyper individualism, the world of competition now to succeed. I think if you don't have any discipline today, you can't succeed. But if Master Aha would, I don't think Master Aha would approve of the 21st century lifestyle, because as the words you used there, Kirsten, this hyper ego and the hyper individualism, we've lost our humanity, the interconnection between people. Now it's as you say, it's a brand. We're all commodities. We're looking for, we know that today we know the price of something, but we don't know the value of something. And I think for the 20th century, that's where we really learned the value of things. But they've all disappeared as the world has become smaller, the global village. Everything is run by Amazon and Google and Microsoft, Facebook. That's it. That's who runs our world. And if you haven't got something that they've got that they sell, we have forgot about Apple. If you haven't got something that they sell, then you're missing out. You know, if you aren't on Instagram, you don't know what's going on. You've lost something. I'm on none of those things. I would rather never have anything to do with those things, because they bring me down. They are negative. They have a negative effect on how I want to deal with people. I know we can't avoid some interaction on things like Facebook and social media. They're important to a point. But Master Aha would tell you that you've got to rid yourself of the trappings of the 21st century. This hyper ego, the hyper individualism, and we're all children of the universe. No, it's like what Max Ehrmann, who wrote the Desiderata poem. We're all children of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars, and we should pay more attention to that than how many likes we can get on Facebook and on Instagram.
Sure. Kirsten, I would like to ask you that question too. Would you answer that too? You and Rory, what do we do? For me, it's a very interesting subject. What do we do where the world demands that you need to be a brand before you make money? Look at Elon Musk. I mean, he's so reluctant to do things, but for him to run Tesla properly, he must be on Joe Rogan's show. He must be on, he just wants to develop stuff, but the world keeps on pulling him back. Even the politics are pulling him back. Yeah. He had to go and meet with Donald Trump. How do we live our lives without being that brand, or should we be that brand, or should we? Yeah, there's the question. I don't know. Help me here.
I also don't have the answer, and I think a lot of the best questions have lots of different answers, obviously, but I think we can't help having a brand, because every action that we take and make and word that we say could be construed as being part of some kind of brand if you wanted to use the lens of a brand. But I find that the work that I'm doing, I really want to facilitate people bringing their best work into the world. And there's always a quality about that authenticity and a depth of soul around that experience of bringing your own best work into the world that has a kind of a uniqueness. And what characterizes much of it is that it's for other people. The difference between a media brand is it's to make me look good, and that authentic brand is often about making other people look good. If I can distill it down to that, and that's my today only answer. I'm sure I'll change it tomorrow. Roux?
Yeah, so ironically, actually, my wife and I just, as I said before we started the show, that my wife and I went away for the weekend. We were down in Ramsgate, and we were sitting on a beach, and we actually asked a similar question. And I think the truth of the matter is that I don't think we can get away, in my opinion, of course, I don't think that we can get away from having a brand. I think identity and brand in this modern age have become so intertwined that people, it's those old cliches, in the first couple of seconds of meeting somebody, they already tell you who you are and whether they like you or not. And that's because of, in marketing terms, your brand. So it's become so muddled. But I think it's just, I agree with Kirsten completely. Mine is a little bit different than Kirsten's, but kind of similar. It's why I think we do a lot of work together, and we get along so well. It's because mine is also about bringing people along and kind of exposing them to thinking or new mindsets or new ways of just approaching life in a manner that kind of improves their experience. Because in my opinion, life is just an experience, and if your brand is, or you are kind of just going out there to experience stuff in whatever way you deem is beneficial to yourself, then by all means do it. And that's kind of who I am. And it's similar to Kirsten. As long as I can do that in a way that helps somebody else experience something that gives them, in the terms of Master Aha, that kind of moment where they can look at themselves and go, that aha moment. So I don't know if that answers your question, Rinus.
Yes. No, very famous. Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry, Roux, I just want to ask Rinus a related question, if I may. The fact that you came up with Master Aha from an identity point of view and not Mother Earth Aha, or, Mama, Aha. That was quite a bold thing to do in our kind of social context, to come up with a Master Aha. Didn't you feel any pressure to make her Mother Earth Aha?
Now we're on a difficult topic, eh? I see where you and I may shoot myself in the foot here. Look, there are plenty female people, humans that I've found.
Note how delicately he's talking.
There are really, and I think actually the world has missed the point, because I really think that the spirituality in the world is carried by women, purely because they can emotionally handle it, where men have always been learned to live in this part and women more in the heart. So I truly think it could easily be a female. But now here comes the shocking bit. I don't know if the world at this point is ready to have that information purely from a female. I think they will. I think there are people that will go, we need that authoritarian kind of, to have the authority to say that. And I think at this point, unfortunately, it still lies in the male side of who we are. And it's very sad, because I've really met more female masters in my life than male masters. So yeah, the next one, I promise I'll make it Mistress Aha.
Mistress Aha.
It sounds racy.
That sounds a little bit dominating. So.
Yeah, but
she's gonna get you.
Tell me, Rinus, what is Master Aha's invitation to the reader in a nutshell? We've spoken about the call to action. Colin spoke about galvanizing us, but how would you kind of summarize Master Aha's invitation to us in his present male form?
Yeah. I knew that one was going to be a tough, because it's just. I think for every possible, Wayne Dyer wrote the book, for every problem there is a spiritual solution, and I think that is maybe what he wants to say. Whether you are a student, whether you are a lawyer, whether you are a freelance writer like Colin, whether you are a speaker like myself, when things happen that breaks all of this up, you literally need to find yourself, and you need to go into life and be as authentic as you can be. And there is a solution for every one of us. Whether you were studying, I always say, imagine being a head boy or a head girl in 2020. You've missed out. But you're the only year that can put on your CV, in 2020, when COVID hit, this is what I've done. And there's an opportunity to put yourself in a way different class than the guys of 2019 and 2021, because you have, and if you've done something in this year that's amazing, it will stand out on your CV for the rest of your life. So that was what I'm trying to tell them. You've got an opportunity right here to put on your CV something that you have done that nobody would ever be able to do, because 2020 will come again. So I think therein lies it. In this lies opportunity to be authentically good and make a difference.
Well, I must say, Rinus, you've done something, the two of you have done something amazing with 2020, because this fabulous book, for me, is the latest in the Richard Bach Illusions lineage. We were waiting for another Illusions, and I think that you've really achieved that with this wonderful book. And the fact that you did it during COVID means that you're absolutely walking the talk in terms of what you just said. So thank you for using COVID to produce something as wonderful as this, both of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kirsten,
Thanks a million.
I want to share this with you. I was 13 years old. I was a weird child. My parents didn't understand me. I'm an only child. I was really weird. And I always wanted to know more. And the books that they were using on Sundays didn't help me that much. But I wanted more. And my mother went to a seminar, and she came back with a name written on the back of a piece of paper that said, the speaker said, he quoted Richard Bach Illusions. And my mom said, maybe you must try this book. And when she gave me that piece of paper, I knew. I got on my bicycle. I grew up in Coltonville. I got on my bicycle. I went through to the library, about 2 kilometers, went in, got the book, turned the book around. In the back of the book, there's a quote that says, here is a test to find whether your mission on earth is completed. If you're alive, it is it. I started crying. I put the book into and I cried all the way back home. I was 13 years old. And when I wrote, life has no meaning until you create it, I phoned Richard Bach. I got hold of him. And wow. I said to him, will you write forward? He said, no, I won't. But I want to tell you that I am so impressed with your writing. I've read it. Thank you very much. And I had this conversation, and it felt like the day I met Nelson Mandela. It was just amazing. And it's so nice that you bring up Illusions, because that book has got it. For the people that haven't read it, sorry, I'm going to spoil it for you. That the one thing that changed everything in my life, when I read the end of the book, and the end of the book says, everything in this book may be wrong. And I think in that book that we wrote, maybe everything's wrong. But you know what? That's how we see it. And that's fine for now.
Wow.
That's incredible. Well, thank you very much. That's really incredible. Thank you. That was fantastic. I think we're going to have to come back to you guys in the future and have you on the show again, because there's a lot of more questions I'd like to ask, but I'm just cognizant of our time together. I still want to go into the heart matters and all sorts of how consciousness and heart kind of connect, and that connection that Rinus was mentioning right in the beginning. So please, let's have you back. But for now, just thank you to the audience out there. I'm going to do the cliched little plug now. Rush out, get the book, read it. It's Surviving Rotten Cheese.
There we go.
There we go. That's what it looks like. Order it online if you're too scared to go to the shop. Get it, and read it. And thank you. Thank you, Kirsten, yet again. Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Rinus. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and hope to chat soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Lovely to chat to you all. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure.
Bye-bye.